What is going on? We have a great show tonight. We are going to be talking about some fantasy relevant camp battles, which I know everyone's doing that right now. But I think we got some good ones. I'm going to have a nice little way of presenting it. We're also mock drafting players with an ADP over 100, sort of a value mock draft that we're going to do for you tonight. Of course, we always do our nonsense draft. And tonight, we typically don't do fantasy related stuff. Tonight, we're going to break those rules a little bit. We're going to be drafting the worst types of fantasy managers. So I wonder if you're going to be on the list. So hang tight.
Going for two, kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for two, sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving it with. Oh, listen to this, multiple options, how far can I get? Oh, DFS Dynasty Redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all, I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or came from the bottom or hitting that top. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo! This is the armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo!
What is going on? And welcome to episode 384 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Geoff Lambert. Follow me on Twitter at Geoff Lambert77. Of course, we're live here every Wednesday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're on YouTube, we're on Twitch, we're on Twitter, syndicated in all major podcast networks. Of course, we're also at goingfor2.com. My co-host, Ryan Searfoss, unfortunately is sick tonight, could not make the show. So filling in his shoes tonight, we have Josh Walker. He is the co-host of the Dynasty Saturday Night 5 show right here on Going for Two Live. And you can follow him on Twitter at Rotonaut. What's up, Josh?
What's up, Geoff? Thanks for having me on again. Fun fact, this was actually the first live show I ever did back in the day. So it's kind of good to be back on, ready to talk camp battles.
Good stuff, man. Glad to have you back. Also joining us tonight for the first time, Zack Swails. He's a fantasy points data guy, and you could follow him on Twitter at betting for all. What's up, Zack?
Hey guys, awesome. Glad to be here. Ironically, yeah, this is my debut show, so
Nice.
Excited to get things going.
Good stuff. So real quick, what do you do over at data guy? What do you do exactly as far as that goes?
So I recently just joined the Fantasy Points team this spring. I am one of the behind the scenes, data analyst guys. So I plug in a lot of the numbers that, feed the Fantasy Points data suite as far as, formations and target shares and so on and so forth. So
good stuff.
Hopefully putting that into fantasy perspective here.
Yeah, and that site is gotten big. I remember when they first started out, and they've grown tremendously over the last couple of years. So that's a good place to be, man. Good stuff. Yeah. All right. As always, today's show is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Check out their best ball leagues, huge tournaments, private leagues, the pick'ems for all major sports. Use our promo code GF2 and get bonus bucks up to $250. Simple as that. Sign up. Use promo code GF2. Start drafting your best ball teams and get ready for the NFL season here. We're going to be doing some pick'ems live on the show just like we did last year. So keep an eye out for that as well. But it's a great app, so get that app, use that promo code GF2 and get your bonus bucks. Let's go ahead and jump right into our nonsense draft of the night.
Attention, everyone. Let's mock draft.
As I mentioned at the top, we're going to be doing a somewhat fantasy-related nonsense draft tonight. So we are drafting the worst types of fantasy football managers. I know it's redraft season. Everyone's doing their live drafts. We all have those personalities in our leagues that maybe we don't think they're the best to have in our league, but we do have them. So we're going to kick it off here with the 101, Zack. Who is the worst type of fantasy manager in some of your leagues?
I think the option I'm going to go with, it's kind of a cliche option, but it's cliche for a reason. And that's the fantasy managers who are in the consolation bracket who do add and drops with players. And shockingly enough, it doesn't matter if you're in a home league or, one of the industry leagues. It happens at every level. And I don't fully understand it, where some people just refuse to let go at some point. But I would have to say that's going to be my 101.
Yeah, I like that pick for sure. They're definitely a little frustrating sometimes when you're trying to get that waiver wire guy and you get beat out and you're the one in the the playoffs and they're kind of just doing their thing. I agree.
Or just dropping players for no reason, just to give, ammunition to other teams still in the playoffs. So, yeah.
All right, Josh, you got the 102.
So for me, I don't dislike trade calculators and trade stuff like charts like that. I use them, but I hate when people, when they send you a trade before you even see it, they send you that on there showing it's a fair trade. Like for some reason that just kind of rubs me the wrong way a little bit. Like I use them sometimes for reference, but I don't, let me evaluate the trade first. Then we can talk, and if you want to bring that up, that's fine. You can refer them into a trade, but just don't come straight out with that, because it's just going to make me want to deny the trade.
Yeah, exactly. It makes me feel like, okay, you went out there and you found some trade calculator that agreed with this trade just to send it to me. It's probably not even the one that you normally use, but you found one that agreed with you, so you're going to send it to me. I'm like, I don't know if I want to take this trade now. Yeah, I agree. Exactly. That's frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'm up here at the 103, and I'm going to go with so I'm in a lot of leagues, obviously, and this particular one is in multiple leagues, and I think maybe even some of us have done this just, in retrospect, but I call it the hindsight trader. Basically, a trade goes through in your league, whatever the trade may be, you're involved in it, and then a guy comes in and goes, I'd have given you more for him. I hate that guy. Like, no, you wouldn't have. I've been trying to trade with you for weeks now. Like, don't come and tell me you would have given me more for a guy when, you're not even active in the league in the off season, and I've been trying to trade with you. But those guys, they frustrate me, because I'm like, they just I don't know. It just kind of rubs me the wrong way. I'd have given you more for him, and I don't know. It's one of my pet peeves, I guess. All right, let's get to the 201, Zach.
Yeah, so I mean, well, I guess this is kind of a trade run, so I'm going to keep it going here. The 2-for-1 or the 3-for-1 traders, absolutely, just drive me nuts. I mean, if you want to do a trade, let's make it even. If you're trying to come get Justin Jefferson, then be willing to negotiate at least a Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor type. Don't try to give me, Jordan Addison and
here's my 4 bench players.
Yeah. So, on the trade run, let's go. 201, the 2-for-1 traders.
And those are the guys that send you the calculator, right? Like, all these 4 guys equal Justin Jefferson. This is an equal trade. Like, that's not how it works. No. All right, Josh, you got the 202.
All right. So I've been in leagues before where people get upset or get mad over something, whether it's petty, whether it's a trade they think should be vetoed, and then they just start giving up all their players for basically nothing, just out of spite. It hasn't happened in a while, but it has happened before, and I know it does happen every year. And it's like, just because something makes you upset, don't ruin it for everybody. And selling all the players to the team in first, stuff like that.
Yeah, it just ruins the league. I agree. That's definitely not a good player to have in your league. Let's see. What am I going to go with next here at the 203? I'm going to go with this guy. It's not really I don't know if I hate this guy. These guys are in your league and they're sucking up all the draft picks and the young guys. But they do it every year. I call them Bob the Rebuilders. They're in constant rebuild mode, right? They're always selling away their studs to get the next draft pick, to get the next young guy. And it kind of makes the league a little bit unbalanced, because everyone knows that, he's going to be trading away his studs in a year or two. I can go get these guys from him, win championships, while he's in continually rebuilding mode, always looking for the next big thing. So yeah, those guys, I kind of just like them because they're making the league a little unbalanced.
If their car insurance drops, then they don't want them on their team. That's kind of 26 is too old.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, 301, Zach.
Yeah, shockingly, I came in with a handful of with potential, picks here, and I still have the 2 of them left that weren't taken. So I'm going to lean on, and this is a little bit more of a personal one, maybe something that makes me salty, is auto drafters who make it to the playoffs. The people who, hardly participate or just kind of like, they're there to collect the total league dues, and then they auto draft, hardly pick or drop any players, and somehow roll into that 6th or 5th spot in the playoffs.
Yep. And
sometimes
even do it again next
win
year.
or two. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I autographed last year. I'll just do it again this year. Like, no, we're not invited back next year. Yep. I hate those guys too. All right, Zach, your last pick here at the 302.
You mean me?
Oh, Josh. Sorry.
Yeah, Josh, you're up.
So this one honestly happened today, and I've been guilty of it before, so that's kind of why I think it's fun, because I think we all do it. When obvious news hits, like JJ McCarthy goes on, Sam Darnold instantly hits the trade block.
Yep.
Like Christian McCaffrey gets hurt, Elijah Mitchell goes on, things like that, and I've done it. So that's why I think it's kind of fun to poke fun of yourself. Everyone does it, but I'm just expecting it at this point. When that happens, it's like, all right, just go ahead and put them on there. you know.
Yep. I'll lump in one of the guys I have. I'm not going to pick him here for my last pick, but I'll lump in the guy that I also was in that same vein. The one who would take players off the trade block just to add them back onto the trade block so that it pops up in the sleeper chat. Yeah, and just spam the chat with these guys are on the block still, guys, in case you didn't see it. So, all right, I will finish this off here with I think this guy. Yeah, I think we can all agree is probably the worst type of manager to have in your league, and it's the bad commissioner. It's the I'm going to change the rules in the middle of the season commissioner. It's the guy that's doing things that seem a little bit in his favor, like approving trades or denying trades, doing the veto thing. Bad commissioners just suck. They just should be out of the game. I think there should be a way to almost have an Uber rating of commissioners. Like if you're a bad commissioner, you get a thumbs down, and everyone knows not to be in your leagues. But yeah, bad commissioners definitely suck.
I think an honorable mention with that I had on my notes is just the people you got to chase down to pay.
Yeah,
those if you're going to join a league, then just pay before you draft.
Just pay it exactly 100%. All right, that wraps up our nonsense draft. Let's jump into some real NFL stuff.
News and notes from around the league.
All right, news and notes. We're going to kind of roll into camp battles with our news and notes and just talk about some different situations that we're not really sure if we know who the starter is, or if we do know who the starter is there a potential that the assumed backup could potentially take over his spot? And we'll kick it off with the QBs. Got a couple of QB battles going on right now, Zach. And the first one I want to talk about is the Patriots QB situation. Obviously, they drafted Drake May. He's the future of the team. But the word is that he's been struggling in camp and that Jacoby Brissett may actually be the starter there in week 1. How do you view this camp battle? Like, if you own Drake May, are you hoping that he starts week 1, or are you more interested about him sitting and sort of, learning behind Jacoby Brissett and learning this offense a little bit?
I'm to the one that's leaning towards having May sit and learn behind Brissett. I think that there's plenty of numbers and speaking to the fantasy points data suite, you can see all kinds of numbers that scream that Jacoby Brissett is a borderline top 32 quarterback. Now, are you going to go anywhere with him or go very far with him? No, but he's the perfect bridge guy, first 4 to 6 weeks kind of guy. The one thing I did find interesting is how they treated Drake May like a starter in the first preseason game.
Mm-hmm.
They only gave him the 3 pass attempts. If he was struggling so much, you would have liked to see more repetition. So I did find that to be a little bit odd because it seemed like they're saving him, but saving him for what? This is those time for the reps. So.
Yep. That's a good point. What about you, Josh? What are your thoughts on this? If you took Drake May in your Superflex leagues, now I'm assuming that you're probably not starting him in your leagues. If you are, you're in rough shape. But are you hoping to see him week 1? Would you prefer to see him week 1? Or are you looking for Brissett to start here?
I mean, yeah, like you said, that was going to be my main point. If he's starting for you and you're competing, then you're probably in trouble anyway. So if you have him, it's probably fine to let him sit a year. It's probably best for him. But at the same time, if he's starting, he is a starting quarterback you have on your roster, and that can be pretty valuable. So I think it's kind of a win-win. Yeah, he might struggle, but at the same time, he's a starting quarterback. where they use him as trade bait after a big game or something. But overall, I think it's better for his development if he sits at least first half, maybe the first year.
If you had to put a stamp on it, who starts week 1, Brissett or May?
Brissett, I think, probably will.
Brissett.
Unless Drake May just comes out and lights it up and shows improvements, but I think it's Brissett still.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's Brissett as well. All right, let's go to another situation. We got a rookie and a veteran. The veteran hasn't had as much success as Brissett has in his career, but Bo Nix and Jarrett Stidham. Obviously, Bo Nix, the rookie, looked really good in that first preseason game, and it sounds like they're leaning towards starting him in week 1. What are your thoughts, Josh, on this battle here? Are you hoping that Bo Nix is out there week 1? Or you think he's ready?
Yeah, I think Bo Nix is one of the better prospects for Sean Payton to go jump right into his offense. He can make on-time throws, doesn't have to throw deep, just quick, accurate throws. And I think as it showed in the first preseason game, he's going to be perfect. Knowing Sean Payton and being a Falcons fan, I've seen him and his coach speak. I think he's just trying to be vague about it just for competitive sake, but I think it's going to be Bo Nix week 1.
Yeah, they haven't actually announced it yet. And to Zach's point earlier, they kind of took the gloves off with Bo Nix and gave him a pretty hefty, chunk in the preseason there to sort of get him ready for week 1, as opposed to what they did with Drake May with barely even playing him. What are your thoughts, Zach, on this battle here? You think it's Bo Nix's job to lose at this point?
Yeah, so I definitely do. The Broncos are near to dear in my heart. That's my home team overall. So I follow them a little bit closer than the other teams per se. But yeah, with this, it's kind of all been set up for Bo Nix to build confidence and grow from that after game 1. And you could see that. I'm looking at Pro Football Focus. You can see some of the snap counts and the starting offensive line ran over 22 snaps. Cortland Sutton ran over 22 offensive snaps to like Tim Patrick, who granted is coming back from injury. He ran 11. Troy Franklin ran 22, in the second half. So that run proves that trying to get the timing down with the offensive starters. And Samaje Perine, unfortunately, did not do Stidham any favors with that, that gimme interception. Yeah, the bobbled interception there and things like that. But, Josh hit the nail on the head. Bo Nix's whole recruiting tape and everything out of college, he was a designed target guy. He got the ball where you needed to be when it was on schedule, and that's what Russell Wilson didn't do beforehand. And you can look back at all of Sean Payton, but he's very much a designed read. Features the wide receiver 1, the running back 1, the tight end 1. Like that's where usually the targets funnel through. So barring a colossal mistake in game 2, I think Bo Nix will have it wrapped up for week 1.
Yeah, I'm with y'all 100%. I think I was a little thinking that Jarrett Stidham might be the starter, way back in the draft when they first took Bo Nix. But the way that I've heard camp going and the way that I saw him play in preseason, I think this is Bo Nix's week 1 job for sure. All right, one last quarterback one here, and this one's got 2 veterans, one a little bit younger than the other, but Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew for the Raiders here. I don't know if there's really a great option for fantasy either way, but if you had to put your stamp on it, Zach, which way are you leaning with these 2 guys?
This one is a coin flip, man. First things first, I really thought it was Minshew. Following the money, the free agent signing, you don't usually sign somebody like that with that kind of money. I can't remember the exact numbers, like 12 million or something, as to be your backup. So I really thought they were signing him to come in, especially based on his performance with the Colts. Got him close to the playoffs, really fed the targets and the leading receivers, Michael Pittman. But you can't deny that AOC connection with Devontae Adams. And if Devontae Adams has is in the ear of Antonio Pierce, like we might have all seen on Wide Receiver on Netflix. Yeah. If Devontae's saying AOC's his guy, that might be the way. I'm torn. I really was thinking Minshew. I think I'm still leaning towards following the money and leaning towards Gardner Minshew. But I think it really just takes Devontae to say AOC's my guy, and that's it.
That's it, right? 100%. Follow your star players for sure. What about you, Josh? What are your thoughts on this situation here?
Yeah, Zach took my answer from. I think it's unless You got to follow the money with Minshew, but unless he just doesn't have rapport with Devontae Adams, I think it's whoever Devontae Adams wants. Not that it's his ultimate say, but I mean, he's the guy you're going to run the offense through.
Yep.
So I think he is going to have a good say in it. But for fantasy, that might not be good for Jacoby Myers because he didn't seem to have a good connection with AOC. So it might be better for both all around and everyone if it is Minshew because he did throw to Pittman and Downs.
Downs. Yeah.
I've seen more of him throwing to two receivers, and AOC just kind of funneled to Devontae. So
Yeah, it's one of those things that if you own Devontae, you want AOC. If you own anything else, you want.
I mean, and we all remember what was it? They didn't throw a single pass in the second half of that Chiefs game last season. So I mean, you don't want that guy on your fantasy team if they're gonna just completely take the ball out of his hands like that.
I think it'll be Minshew though.
Mac Jones 2.0, but yeah.
Yeah, I think if I was a betting man, which I am, I would put my money on Minshew, just like you mentioned, Zach, because of the money situation. Ideally they would start Minshew and then AOC takes over and he's good from there. But I think Minshew's your week 1 starter. All right, let's move to some running backs here. We'll kick it off with the Titans running back, Zach. Tony Pollard, of course, is the big sign, the big new guy there. Then Tajay Spears is sort of the incumbent. Neither one is really, as far as what we think of them as fantasy players, stars per se, but in this offense, they could become stars if they get the volume. What are your thoughts on these two guys, and who would you prefer to have in fantasy?
So I with this one, I think it's easily 1A, 1B type situation. I really wouldn't be surprised if Tajay Spears throughout the season ends up handling a little bit more of the early down work, a little bit more elusive in the run game. Where Pollard, obviously former wide receiver, has those receiving chops, third down, pass blocking experience, so on and so forth. So I really do see this as like a 55-45 kind of split throughout the season. I think
kind of thing.
Exactly. And if you're a Pollard stand, this is exactly what you want, because obviously we saw with Pollard, he's not an every down back. I really think of Pollard and Jaylen Warren in the same kind of bucket, where if you expand their roles, you run the risk of wearing them down, which is what I feel like we saw. But Spears is the perfect complement, explosive and stuff. You worry about the knee, the no ACL or whatever is supposedly there or not there in the knee, but the explosion just jumps off the charts. I mean, it's insane what that guy does with the ball in his hands. And I really think that depending on how quickly Hopkins comes back, you could see them kind of funnel the pass game through the running backs a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it's one of those situations in fantasy where if I'm doing a redraft, I'm taking whoever the cheaper guy is.
The later guy. Absolutely.
Yeah, whoever the later guy is, that's who I want on my team, because you're right. It's going to be 50-50, I think, or pretty close to that.
And most often that's usually Spears, which I'm perfectly okay with. I'll take Spears all day as a flex.
100%. RB3. So we're going to alternate these. So, Josh, I'll give you the Bengals running backs. Chase Brown, obviously is the incumbent with Zach Moss coming in. How do you view this backfield? What do you think happens with these two guys?
I think they're both going to get significant playing time. The main thing I'm looking at is through the preseason games is what role each one of these guys have. Because so far it seems to be that Chase Brown was doing some of the early down work and Zach Moss was doing third down. And that's kind of the opposite of what I expected. Because Chase Brown doesn't seem like someone you really want to be handing the ball off on early downs between the tackles, which is what they did a lot of with Joe Mixon. They just handed the ball up the middle a lot. So I'm paying attention to the roles they have, and when it comes to which one I prefer, it just depends on, like you said on the last one, who you can get second. I think they're both going to be useful, but talent overall, I like the upside of Chase Brown. But Zach Moss, when he was not getting a ton of carries, he was pretty efficient. He did wear down, so I think if they can alternate, they'll both be really good and useful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to echo that, I think it's really important because a lot of people get mixed and they talk about Zach Moss's success out of the shotgun, which is what Joe Burrow does all the time. But a lot of that was with Anthony Richardson.
Yep.
The dual threat scare, and threat. So with that, I think you hit the nail on the head. The upside wins championships when you're 100 picks into your draft, which we'll be talking about later. like, Chase Brown is that type of upside guy where Zach Moss is more of the plotter.
Yep, exactly. Zach Moss is the safe guy. I need a bye week fill in that's just going to not get me 0. Chase Brown could be like a league winner if he ends up being anything. So, yeah, good point. All right, this one's a tough one, Zach. This is the Chargers running back, which we've been calling the Baltimore Ravens West because it's got J.K. Dobbins and Gus Bus at the top of the depth chart there. And I threw in Kamani Vidal, too. He was a popular dynasty sleeper type guy. So the three of them here, how do you see this thing shaking out? And good luck figuring this one out.
Man, if there's ever a opportunity for me to prove how the math and data supersedes my bias, this is it, because I'm a diehard Ohio State guy. My dad graduated from the university. J.K. Dobbins I drafted him 3rd round last year on Sirius XM out in Philadelphia. I want it to be Dobbins so bad. I just can't see it. There's just no way. Achilles, ACL. It took Foreman 3 years to come back from the Achilles.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're still seeing forget the Rams guy off the top of my head.
Cam Akers.
Cam Akers.
Thank you. Yeah, Cam Akers. It's just not something that is normally sustainable, even at his 24, 25-year-old age. I think it's Gus Bus. I think it's Gus Bus. I don't think it's particularly close. They're going to be grinders. He's going to be the goal line carrier. They're going to rotate some explosion, but remember where you heard it first. Miles Sanders or Khalil Herbert. Those are the eyes to keep an eye on. I don't know if they can be added to this list or not, but if they get cut, I would not be surprised to see them come in, because right now it seems like Gus Bus, JK, of course, and then Jarrett Patterson is actually leading the way. Kamani Vidal is, all the rumors are he might be a cut. And did he even play much of the first preseason?
He did play a little bit. He didn't play as much as I'd hoped, because he was someone that I was looking at in Dynasty. And
exactly.
And he's you're right. He's fallen. I mean, I believe he was undrafted. If not, he wasn't. If he was like 7th round, maybe. Yeah, 6th round. He was a late guy. He had a long route to get there anyway. I think the athleticism is what everybody was like sort of excited about. But he's a name that's just been a buzzword. But it's really between Gus Bus and J.K. Dobbins. And I think you're right. I think it is Gus Bus. I think the offensive coordinator, if you look through his history, doesn't throw the running backs. So Gus Bus doesn't catch passes. So it doesn't matter that he doesn't catch passes, because they can throw to him anyway.
It's going to be the ugliest 10 touchdowns you've ever seen in your life, but it's going to happen.
Yep.
So there's your bye week fill-in.
Exactly. All right, let's move over to so the Chargers, man, they got a lot of decisions to make, Josh.
I'd rather take this one.
Yeah. This one is the receivers here. So we got Josh Palmer, we got McConkey, you got Quentin Richardson in the mix there. DJ Shark is in the mix there. They say he might even be the receiver 3 with QJ taking the receiver 4 spot. Makes sense of this, man, because I sure as hell can't.
Yeah, so the way I kind of see it is Palmer's got the most rapport with Justin Herbert, and he's shown that he can be pretty productive. So I see him being, as far as like sets go, the X receiver, the wide receiver 1. He'll be playing probably on the outside. I think McConkey will get a lot of slot work, also with some outside work, because he can win on the outside. And then, DJ Chark, he's still a pretty good player. He was a top 20 wide receiver back in the day, and he's still pretty young. So I think he's more polished and more experienced, and will actually catch the ball. So I think he is probably going to come in as wide receiver 3. And then QJ is going to be kind of a wild card. I think they'll move him around, try and get him an open space to get him some easy touches, because he's athletic and he is good in space. But yeah, I think they're all going to get a lot of use. I'd rather have Palmer or McConkey over any of them by a good bit.
Yeah.
And both are pretty cheap, honestly. Palmer's one of the better values this year for fantasy football, because I think he will be their best receiver.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And anytime that he's been there, when Keenan Allen and Mike Williams have been hurt, he's been pretty good. Mm-hmm. So obviously neither one of them are there anymore. So I think he's the receiver 1 and could be a decent late round pick for sure.
Well, and everybody's been so obsessed with, the running back room of the Chargers because of Greg Rossum, But the biggest thing is the fact that, like, where are they going to throw the ball? Like, they're going to most likely be behind in a lot of games. They're going to have to be playing catch up and stuff. So pace of play, one of the craziest stats that I came across, on Pro Football Focus, Quentin Johnson, by a landslide, led the team in outside routes ran. Over 450 routes ran from the outside. So if he's now labeled up as the wide receiver 4, what are we going to do here? And to Josh's point, Palmer was second on the team with 225. So that's a pretty significant difference there, and a lot of outside routes open for grabs, no matter the offense that you're running.
Good point. All right, let's go to let's do another receiver one, and then we'll do one of the tight ends that I have on my list. And since Zach, you are the fan here, we'll let you talk about Sutton, Mims, and Troy Franklin here.
Yeah, so when it comes to the Broncos wide receivers, I think it's Sutton and everybody else. I know Marvin Mims is a pretty hot late target dart, especially in best ball drafts and things like that. I mean, most of your redraft leagues and things, he'll probably go undrafted. I really think, I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but Sean Payton's offense, you can go back and look at it. It runs through the wide receiver one, the running back one, and then usually the tight end. God forbid if Greg Dulcich can stay healthy or something, then you might actually have something at tight end. But I think it's pretty considerably it's going to be Sutton, and then Mims is going to be kind of their gadget. He's going to get a lot of the design targets, kind of like you saw last season, a lot of the screens and things like that. He's going to be their kick returner and punt returner and things like that. But as far as anybody after Sutton and whoever, you decide the running back is of the team, it's a pretty big drop off there. Plus you've got Bo Nix, rookie season. He's not one to throw it across the middle. So you really want to look at your design target type of guys.
Yeah, good point. All right, Josh, let's do one of the tight end battles that I had listed here. Let's do the one for the Giants here with Bellinger and Theo Johnson, the rookie tight end. Obviously, with rookie tight ends, it's always tough in general, but Bellinger's not that much older than he is. So what are your thoughts on this battle and how this goes?
Theo Johnson was my tight end too coming out in rookies. So I liked his athleticism being 6'5", 260 pounds and still running a really good 40 time, showing really good explosiveness. And one thing I really liked, the clip of him blocking Aiden Hutchinson and really standing his own and honestly kind of overpowering him a little bit. I think that's a really good sign because I think the easiest way onto the field as a tight end is being a good blocker and being able to help out on all downs.
Yep.
Because you've kind of seen how they're saying Bowers has to earn opportunities by blocking. Like, I think Theo Johnson's got that covered, and I think he's just the better upside play. I'd much rather have him in fantasy. Bellinger's kind of off my radar. So I'm taking a shot on Theo Johnson, even if it's not this year. I think he's for dynasty more so. I think he's a good asset just to hold on to and be patient with.
Yeah, let's face it. We're probably not drafting either one of these guys in redraft, right? Unless you play in some really deep redraft leagues for sure. But I think you're right. I think Theo Johnson is the upside play. The guy that if I was going to roster one of these guys in a dynasty roster, I'd want Theo Johnson over Bellinger. Bellinger, maybe he gets a better season this year, but it's not going to be a good season per se. It's going to be one of those he's just on the field just to be there to have a tight end and nothing more.
A few cheap touchdowns.
Yep, exactly. All right, so next up, we were going to be doing our redraft depth mock draft is what I'm calling it. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the mock here so I can explain what we're going to be doing. Essentially, we already auto-drafted the first 8 rounds, and we're going to be drafting, mock drafting from here on out. So we're going to be looking at some late-round guys. Anyone with ADPs essentially over 100 are going to be the guys we're looking at. We will let Sleeper fill in the blanks for us. But when we get to our picks, guys, if you can just, walk us through your process, guys, you might be looking at. If there's anybody that was sniped that you were hoping to get, talk about those guys a little bit as well as we go through these. Let me go ahead and get the draft resumed here. And first up on the clock, Josh, you got the 9.4. What are you looking for here?
So this is Superflex, correct?
Correct.
So Superflex here, I think Deshaun Watson's probably the best value. He struggled a little bit, but he's shown in the past upside, and quarterbacks can be a premium. So the other people I was looking at would be Jaylen Warren. I think he's going to be really good in Arthur Smith offense. Will Levis maybe if you like him, but I still think Deshaun Watson is going to be more healthy than he was last year. And they got Jerry Jeudy as well as Amari Cooper and Njoku. So I think I'm going to take Deshaun Watson, especially in Superflex.
Yeah, agreed 100%. Now, for the record, the auto draft here did not go very quarterback heavy, even though it was set on Superflex. Deshaun Watson was the only player that was left in the player pool that did not have an ADP of 100 or more. But just so the audience knows that you probably won't get Deshaun Watson that late. But great pick there. Obviously, the value is there for sure. So I like that pick a lot. All right, and then next, Jalen Warren just went. You talked about him a little bit. Deontay Johnson, who I was hoping would fall to me at the 9.7, but did not. So I'm up on the clock now. And a couple guys I'm looking at. Two guys we literally just talked about, Zach Moss, Tajay Spears are on the clock. I'm looking at doing a running back here. And Chase Brown's also on the board as well. I think I'm going to go Tajay Spears. We just talked about Zach Moss being the quote unquote boring guy, and Tajay Spears potentially being the more explosive one in that offense. So I will take Tajay Spears here. All right. And up to you, Zach, at the 9-10 here.
Yeah, so I think this is a great. We're a couple weeks away from the season, right? So it's a point in time where you got to start planting your flag. And this isn't just because I'm a Broncos fan, but I think planting that flag on Javonte Williams is important because we just talked about it. Sean Payton offenses, it runs through the running back. And, with me being a data guy, I got a couple of data points that are interesting. Back in 2023, just last year, coming back from injury, from fantasy points data, Javonte was top 14 in running back first read target share at 7.4%. So we talked about the design concept and things like that. So, again, we're looking at design targets, things to get Bo Nix confidence and easy completions. And that's exactly what Javonte is there for. And, talking about expected fantasy points and all that, I know some people get torn on that concept, but looking at expected fantasy points per route run, the two Denver backs were number 1 and number 2 per fantasy points data with 0.67 and 0.56. Then the running back 3 was Kamara. What do all three have in common? They've played in the Sean Payton offense. So I think it just really echoes, if you're going to plant your flag, especially this late, you definitely have in a PPR RB, 2 upside with the Javonte Williams.
100%. I love that pick because you're right. I mean, Sean Payton has made a career out of making running backs relevant in fantasy. So I think that's a great pick there.
And you're at this point, right, where we kind of talked about Tajay Spears, Tony Pollard, that split backfield a little bit. Austin Eckler, Zach Moss, the split backfield. Yes, it's going to be split with Javonte, but I think the roles are pretty defined.
Yep.
With Jaleel McLaughlin, he's not an every down guy. So, and then to round this out, again, I'm a big upside wins championships type guy. So imagine if the reports on Christian Watson's hamstrings are accurate and that 20% muscle differential is actually, less than that and actually a little bit more. Christian Watson has the biggest upside on the Packers team as far as their deep threat and overall, connection with Love. So,
yeah, great pull. I like that one a lot. All right, I'm up on the clock, and I was hoping that this guy would be on the board when that came back around. Everyone's kind of down on him, saying he had a down rookie season, and I don't buy that. Mr. JSN, Jackson Smith-Njigba, he had almost 100 targets as the third receiver on a run-first team with guys that in front of him with DK Metcalf and Lockett, 2 really good receivers. To get almost 100 targets as a rookie, that's pretty good. And I think eventually, if it's not by week 1, I think eventually this season he's going to overtake Lockett's role. And obviously I think his role expands as the season goes on. So at this late, I'm looking for that upside guy. I'm taking JSN right here at my pick. And Josh, right after me goes Devin Singletary, then DeAndre Hopkins, and then Josh, you're up here at the 10-9.
Yeah, I was really hoping Devin Singletary fell to me there. He's a solid back. He's going to be the number 1 guy. But I still think I'm going to go running back here, and I'm going to go with one of the better running back values in my opinion, Brian Robinson. And even though Austin Eckler's there, I think Brian Robinson will definitely get a lot of early down work. And he showed last year that he's a competent receiver, so I think he'll still get receptions even if he is more of an early down back. And I think he's just the younger, more explosive back. So I think getting him there is a really good value.
Who do you think is the goal line back?
I think it's going to be Robinson, but at the same time, we all know Eckler's strength. I think it just kind of goes to see how explosive he is and how much strength he has. Because last year he looked like he was kind of cooked, and if he looks like that again, I think it'll be Robinson because both of them are bigger guys. But if Eckler looks back to himself, it'll probably be Eckler, just given his experience and his lower body strength to push the pile.
Yeah, good call.
Sneaky bowling ball in there.
Yeah. All right. So after your pick, Dalton Schultz, Brian Thomas, and Jamison Williams come off, and then in the 11th round, 3 straight running backs with Ezekiel Elliott, Gus Edwards, Trey Benson, and then you're back up again at the 11:04, Josh.
Yeah, Jamie kind of hinted to this earlier. If you can get a wide receiver 1 on a team in the 11th round, you should take that. So I'm going to get Cortland Sutton here. It's probably going to be the number 1 target earner. And I think getting him this late is awesome because I think he'll be a top 30 wide receiver.
Yep, absolutely. That's a great pick there. And Jamie, it's funny you mentioned Jamie talking about getting a receiver 1 in this round. He also mentioned in the chat that Blake Corum is still on the board. And the very next pick after your Sutton pick was Blake Corum. So Jamie is on point here. He's obviously done some drafts because he seems to know what players are going where. And then right after that goes Pat Freiermuth. I am back up on the clock. And I'm going to stick with guys that we talked about earlier in the show, and talking about getting wide receiver 1s in the this late of a round. And I'll take Josh Palmer. I'll take the expected Chargers receiver 1 in the 11th round. I mean, there's literally no risk. And I know we're not team building here, but if we were team building, he's my wide receiver 6 on this team, with potential to be the wide receiver 1 on the Chargers team that has produced some pretty good fantasy guys before. So yeah, I'll take that upside all day.
It's a great trade piece, too, to someone who loses a wide receiver and needs production because it's not a loss to you, but to them it could be plug right in. So
yeah, 100%. 2 receivers follow me up with Romeo Doubs and Tyler Lockett. And then, Zach, you are on the board at 11:10.
All right, here. So this is where I'm going to put one of my personal stamps on here. So one of my biggest stands this year has been the Cleveland backfield. And no, I do not mean Nick Chubb. So in my opinion, Nick Chubb coming back from that gruesome injury, I don't see it. Similar to that J.K. Dobbins, conversation. We all know Nick Chubb is an animal. Love the guy, but I really worry about that injury. Jerome Ford has some pretty crazy statistics overall, and was a PPR monster. And if we're focused on PPR type of things, with Ford, I don't think most people realize he was 12th in missed tackles forced, with over 50, and 16th in missed tackles forced per attempt. He averaged 0.25 missed tackles forced per attempt. So every 4 rushes, he was breaking a tackle. And then within that, also, he led the Browns in pass block snaps at over 60 pass block snaps. So he kind of secured that 3rd down role, which previously was owned by Kareem Hunt, but they kind of, did a little bit of role reversal there. So Jerome Ford, I think, is incredibly undervalued, where normally we're gunning for a Cleveland Browns running back.
Yeah, great value. And just looking at the team that the auto draft built you almost were forced into like a 0 RB build. And Jerome Ford's the perfect 0 RB type of player, right? I mean, he's the guy you're getting super late, and potential that he could be that, the high end number 2 and low end number 1 running back if he gets that volume.
Yeah, exactly. If you have a situation where you're going 0 RB and you can land a Javonte Williams and a Jerome Ford where you get 2 RB2s, like that's the kind of thing that can sustain you. And maybe you can get a Blake Corum for a potential future home run hitter or something like that. So,
yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really torn here because based on the ADP data, it really wants us to go after a quarterback. And the quarterback options are like Geno Smith, Bryce Young, Derek Carr. Drake May, Russell Wilson, Daniel Jones, Bo Nix. I'm just not going to do it. I don't think. Let's take a quick peek here. Yeah.
While you're looking, let me just recap the players that went after you going forward. Tight end Cole Kmet off the board. Chase Brown, and we talked about a little bit earlier at the 11-12. And then starting off the 12th round with Khalil Shakur, and then Zach Charbonnet at the 12-2. And Zach, you're up at the 12-3.
Yeah, I changed my mind. I ended up going Geno Smith. If somehow, some way, you have a quarterback like Geno Smith that falls in the Superflex league, I'd have to go back and look at the rankings, but I'm pretty sure. Got to keep in mind, brand new offense. Pete Carroll's out of town. They bring in the Washington offensive coordinator from the collegiate level. Complete new offense spread. We talked about JSN and being that third receiver, already had over 100 targets. So, assuming Geno doesn't fall off a cliff, we should see a little bit more of 2 years ago Geno than we did last year Geno with more weapons.
Agreed. All right after you, Jacoby Myers off the board, Mike Williams off the board, and I'm back up on the clock. And I'm going to stick with the quarterback theme as well. This has been kind of my late round guy that I've been getting in a ton of my redraft leagues. Everyone's kind of given up on Bryce Young, right? I think it's too early. It was one season. He literally had, his best receiver was a 35-year-old, mostly washed up Adam Thielen, and just basically did it all on volume. Now he's got weapons. He's got Deontay Johnson there. We got what we hope will be a good running back if he's healthy, and Brooks when he's healthy. Leggett is an explosive receiver. So I think he's got some good pieces there now, and I do think he's going to have. I think this is more his rookie season that we should be judging him on. If he struggles this year, a little bit different, but I do think Bryce Young will be okay, especially in the 12th round. Can't really pass it up in Superflex league. So yeah, Bryce Young is kind of my guy. Right after me goes Curtis Samuel, and then Rashid Shaheed at the 12-8. Josh, you're at the 12-9.
So especially in Scott Fishbowl and some of these other leagues I'm playing in, there's been heavy tight end premiums. I've been kind of letting tight ends go off the board. So one of my favorite targets late is Luke Musgrave. I think he's going to be the starter there, even though Kraft was pretty good. It is kind of a loaded with 4 receivers that are going to be playing and a tight end. There's going to be a lot of targets to go around, but he still showed really good efficiency, and I'm comfortable with him as my tight end 1 if I've got top 5 players at all my other positions and I've spread it out well. Sometimes I've already taken 3 quarterbacks in a super flex league before a tight end.
Yep.
So I'm targeting him late as a late starter.
There's one thing too that when you look at Musgrave, right? We as fantasy analysts, we don't look at regular season most of the time. But if you look at the playoffs last year where Musgrave came back and he was healthy, I believe he had 5 or 6 targets in both those playoff games. So that kind of shows you that they plugged him right back in. He was the tight end 1 right away. So I think that's a good pull there in the late round.
And Kraft's been nursing that injury too, so that that just gives more repetition, more opportunity in training camp.
All right, the 6 picks in between your 2 picks, we got A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Leggett that I mentioned earlier, Chuba Hubbard off the board, and then in the 13th we go Jerry Jeudy, Gabe Davis, Kendre Miller, and then back to you, Josh.
Okay, yeah, so I'd say I don't think a lot of these quarterbacks like Carr, May, Wilson, and Jones will be there, or even Nix. If they are, I'd obviously take them, but just for the sake of looking for deeper targets, I'm going to go down to a little further down, and I'm going to pick Josh Downs. He's kind of hampered by a little bit, but this late, he's going to be a bench piece. Just kind of hope he gets healthy, because when he's healthy, he showed to be a really good wide receiver too behind Pittman. I think Richardson can support them both. He had a few injuries last year, but it was nothing major. But seeing him already injured is kind of a concern. But this late, if I can get some upside, I'm going to pick him. It was really between him or Wicks. So if one of you guys picked Dontavion Wicks, that's the other person I was considering. It's just kind of a loaded receiver room. I think he's got a decent upside, but I'm kind of scared also.
I'd have to agree that if Josh Downs, is able to get back healthy, he should be the wide receiver 2 as far as target share in that offense ahead of A.D. Mitchell.
Yeah, and AD Mitchell went a round earlier, so you're getting the potential receiver 2 a whole round later. So I like it. All right, right after your pick, Jahan Dotson goes off, Brandon Cooks goes off, and you already kind of spoiled it for me because Dontavian Wicks is the guy I was hoping that would land with me. You mentioned the very crowded. I know we didn't talk about them in the camp battles, but it's very crowded. They go 4 deep. So who knows how Dontavian Wicks factors into there? But he showed last year how good he can be when given the opportunity. And in the 13th round, I just need somebody that could potentially get opportunity at some point in the season. And I think if he gets the opportunity, he could be good. So I'll take a risk here on Dontavian Wicks. Cade Otton and then J.K. Dobbins are in between my pick and your pick, Zach, and you were up at the 13-10.
Yeah, so this situation, I actually got a little sniped. I had Brandon Cooks and Jahan Dotson both as potential targets. Just real quick, as far as like Washington's pace of play should lead the NFL. Jahan, the amount of targets to go around in Washington, it's a pretty small selection. Luke McCaffrey is slated to be the wide receiver 3 out there. And then Brandon Cooks. I mean, obviously we got the CD contract and everything. So again, there's like 3 targets to choose from in Dallas, and it's going to be nothing but a high-paced offense. So those 2, I'm a little bit sad to see go. So I think I'm going to have to break my normal routine and get a little bit of correlation here. Where did he go? Going back to, and this is going to really make me seem like a homer, but just to lock up the backfield with Jaleel McLaughlin. We talk about upside in this slate. Again, we talk about how both running backs led and expected fantasy points per route run and things like that. So if somehow Javonte Williams is not the guy that he was in 2021, does not come back from injury, Sean Payton decides to throw in the towel, you have the basically the handcuff, which is a dying breed in fantasy football nowadays. But you have the explosive back who should get more opportunity if that happens.
Love that pick there. And that's probably who I would have taken in that spot as well. I think that was a great choice. I mean, we had 4 running backs score towards the end there. Dobbins went right before you, McLaughlin, and then Jalen Wright and Antonio Gibson round out the 13th round. We'll kick off the 14th round with 2 receivers, Quentin Johnson and Jalen Polk, and then you were back on at 14-3 here.
And this pick right here, for anybody who listens to the SiriusXM, fantasy point show or anything like that, this is not going to surprise anybody one bit. It's basically fantasy points sleeper of the year, Tyler Conklin. I am still shocked that he is getting 0-0 love. In most redrafts, he's not even getting drafted as basically like tight end 20 something or whatever. But Conklin has the potential for tight end 12 upside. Let me check my notes real quick. Every year his targets have grown 83, 80, and 84. And his team yards his team yards percentage has also grown. He went from 13.3, which was 22nd in tight end, to 13.7, which was 19th, to last year 18.4, which was 11th amongst tight ends.
Wow.
And now he's got Aaron Rodgers. They didn't get any better in the receiver core. Yeah, they got Mike Williams, but he's a deep shot guy coming back from an ACL. So once you get past Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, where's Aaron going to go?
Yep. Good point. Good point. I like that. I like that pick, and I like the stamp there, going with Gronklin, as we called him on my DFS show. All right. Ricky Pearsall off the board on the next pick, and then Rico Dwaddle goes next. I'm on the board, and Sleeper made it this pick easy for me because I was between the pick I'm going to make and Pearsall, but I'll take Darnell Mooney here, the wide receiver 2 for the Atlanta Falcons. I think the Rondale Moore situation also kind of makes it a little bit clearer. And they paid him. That was the thing, follow the money as we talk about. They gave him a pretty good contract for what he had done the year previous. He is a 1,000-yard receiver at one point in his career. I think Mooney is an excellent value late in draft, so that's who I'll take here. Follow that up with Troy Franklin and Ty Chandler, and Josh, you're back on the clock.
Yeah, speaking of snipe, Geoff just sniped me there. I love Darnell Mooney with Chicago. For being his size, he was still a 1,000-yard receiver on not a good offense. So I think he's going to slot in really good as the wide receiver too. He already seems to have a pretty good connection with Cousins. And getting him this late is getting 1,000-yard receiver still young is great. As long as he can stay on the field, that's going to be awesome. So with my next pick, I'm going to stay with the same team and go with Tyler Algier. He's going to still get some run with Bijan, and if something does happen to Bijan, he's going to be a top 20 running back. As a rookie on not a great offense, he surpassed 1,000 yards, still looked good last year. So getting a handcuff and also someone you can plug in on a bye week and hope he gets a touchdown, I like that here.
Yeah, that's a good call. I like that pick. After that goes Adam Thielen, Marshawn Lloyd, and Taysom Hill, and then Kamani Vidal we talked about earlier. Ben Sanat, is that how you say his last name? I haven't actually heard his name pronounced before. I'm assuming it's Sanat.
That's what I've been saying.
I'm saying Sanat. I didn't know if there's like a weird pronunciation of it, Sanao or something. There's like the T's are silent. And then Demario Douglas goes next, and then you're back on the clock here in the 15th.
Okay, so I was really hoping Demario Douglas fell to me. If I needed a receiver in the 14th round, I would have taken him. I think he's going to be the most reliable of the Patriots receivers. So that's who I would have taken. And now I'm between Ray Davis and Roman Wilson. The injury kind of scares me. So I'm going to go with Ray Davis just because I really love James Cook. But at the same time, I don't think he's one of those guys you want having 20 carries a game. I don't think you want him running through heavy boxes at the goal line really as much either. So I think Ray Davis is going to get a lot of touches early on. He's a mature player, and I think he's going to do all the right things, which will keep him on the field.
Yeah, agreed. I would have gone Ray Davis there as well. Follow that up with Chig Okonkwo to tight end, Tyrone Tracy that I was hoping would fall to me. Had a bit of a scare this week in preseason or in camp where he went down non-contact, but apparently it wasn't as bad as they thought it was going to be. It was just a sprained ankle, so he should be back. I think he's in line to potentially be the RB2 there with the New York Giants. So, and Devin Singletary is the one guy in front of him, so he's someone that I'm looking at late in drafts for sure. Jamie's in the chat, so I'm going to make this pick in honor of Jamie. Everyone knows who his top guy is. He's always in the chat talking about him. I'll take Roschon Johnson here. Crowded Bears backfield, but none of them have really shown that. I mean, obviously Swift, but Swift has been injured in his career, and Roschon Johnson as a second-year player could get the opportunity in this offense, and this should be a much improved offense, I think, overall with the receivers they have, and with a new quarterback there. So yeah, I'll take Roschon in the 15th round for sure. All right, Damian Pierce goes next, and then the other running back in that backfield, Khalil Herbert, goes after that, and then you were back on the clock, Zach.
I do got to give a quick kudos on the Ray Davis. He is one of my most owned in both best ball and in Dynasty overall. I don't know if any of you guys, how much Dynasty you do, but Ray Davis was a perfect example of just because of the age of the rookie, you had people like Vidal and things getting drafted full round and a half ahead of him in Dynasty rounds, where you could get Ray Davis basically as a fourth round pick, fourth round pick consistently. And to Jamie's point, 55% of James Cook's snaps last year. So a lot of opportunity for Ray Davis in what could be a run-first offense for Buffalo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So here late, I'm definitely going for upside. I want a piece of that, potential Super Bowl type of offense that the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow have. I still strongly believe that, the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, we haven't seen the best of that connection. And personally, just from years past, I am very worried about players that play on franchise tags, disgruntled and things like that. You hear it all the time, any little nicks, injuries, things that maybe, they just milk a little bit more could open up the door for opportunity. You already had Tyler Boyd leave, opening up slot opportunity. Jermaine Burton scored a touchdown in preseason week 1. So, the opportunity and the talent is there. That guy, everybody knows he fell in the draft mainly because of character concerns, or he would have been a significantly higher pick, potentially second round even.
Yep.
So, and then last but not least, Jamie almost gave my plan away earlier, but one of my key plans on if you're going to do the Jerome Ford, I mentioned the Browns backfield as a whole. I am not a believer in Nick Chubb. I not as a player. I have in years past, but coming back from this significant injury, I'm really scared about how much he's really going to be able to handle. So when you can lock up this backfield, Deontay Foreman should be taking over that Kareem Hunt role. And just last year, Kareem Hunt had 75% of the team's carries inside the 5. That was 6th best overall. And he was number 3 in touchdown rate at 6.7%. All of this found at Fantasy Points data, just behind the 2 Dolphins guys, Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane. So, that kind of opportunity and volume, Foreman should be stepping into the Hunt role until Chubb comes back, if he does come back. But that's definitely somebody where, let's say you draft a Jonathan Brooks, you get yourself a Ford and a Ford and a Foreman, you have somebody to fill that RB2 spot until Jonathan Brooks comes back from, POP and injury. So
I love it. Great pick here in the last round. All right, I'm going to go. So my last pick, I went with the shout out to Jamie. This one I'll go with the shout out to Ryan, who couldn't be on the show tonight, my co-host, the Ravens fan. He has gone on this show to say that Isaiah Likely could be the 3rd leader in targets for the Ravens. So I'll take that chance. Isaiah Likely has been a beast whenever he's given the opportunity. There's a really good chance that they run a lot of 2 tight end sets this year to get him on the field, which is good. How good he's been. And, in the very last round here, looking at my team, I know we're not team building. I only have one other tight end, and it was Kyle Pitts. So I'll take Likely here in the last round with that upside. So, Josh, your last pick here. What you got?
Yeah, just a really quick note on the Ravens. Todd Monken at UGA ran a lot of 2 tight end sets, and I thought they would do more of that last year, and I think they might get back to that and simplify things a little bit. So I really like that pick. So here I'm between a few people. If I'm shooting for pure upside, it'd be Marvin Mims, but I'm also, especially looking at the game, I'm not trusting that he's going to get a lot of touches. Rashad Bateman, but I think I'm going to go Hunter Henry here. I think he's going to get a lot of targets in an offense, especially with Brissett. It's going to be simplified, a lot of short throws. I think he's going to get a lot of touchdowns. And getting this late, someone you can plug in as a tight end on a bye week or an injury and be comfortable, I'll take this late.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great pick towards the end there, especially if I know we did the auto draft and it took some other tight ends, but if you're one of the players that likes to wait as long as possible for tight ends, Hunter Henry is a very, very good target to get there late. So I like it. Great stuff.
Yeah, and I knew if I went Marvin Mims, I wouldn't be allowed back. That's just there's too much homerism at that point. So I had to let him fall, and that's just a great point. That's like one of those guys that goes undrafted here, even on sleeper. So I think these redraft ADPs that's a whole conversation within itself, as you and I have had offline, Geoff. So
yep, absolutely. All right, fellas, that wraps the podcast up. I want to thank you both for coming on. Great show. Great first appearance, Zack, on any live show. So, we'd love to have you back, obviously. Josh, you made your first appearance, but you've been on multiple times since then. So thanks for jumping in for Ryan last minute. Really appreciate it. We'll go around the room real quick, guys. Give us your Twitter handle, plug anything you're working on or anything you wanted to plug. We'll go to you first, Zack.
Yeah. So obviously my Twitter handle is @BettingForAll. Working on the Fantasy Earth Roamer is the name in most of my fantasy leagues. But right now I'm getting started with Fantasy Points. Really excited to be able to put my math nerdness to the test and embrace that stuff and then be able to share that data with you guys. Not only that I'm inputting myself, but also the things that stick out. So that's what I'm here to do is give you the math behind the madness.
Stuff. I love it. Josh, what you got going on?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Rotonaut, ROTONAUT. You can find my dynasty rankings at goingfor2.com. I'm going to do a full audit a little bit further into preseason once things get a little more cemented, especially for my weekly redraft rankings. Me and Brian Ford do a show on Saturday nights at 7:30. It's a dynasty show, Dynasty Saturday Night 5. You can find that on the Going for 2 YouTube channel.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you haven't watched that show, it's a great show. They do a great job over there with the dynasty stuff. So All right. As always, guys, you can follow me on Twitter at Geoff Lambert77. I wanted to plug the Discord. We have it's all free. Everything we do over there is free. It's great advice. We got some good people in there that will answer all your questions. It's set up differently than most Discords. It's set up like a forum, so your stuff doesn't get lost in the endless scroll that is a chat. You actually get a forum type post that people can respond to. So you can find that link in my Twitter bio. You can find it at goingfor2.com. You could, in this YouTube description, it's going to have the link there somewhere. Somehow you'll find the link. But yeah, join it. It's all free. Some great people in there as well. So for Zach, for Josh, I am Geoff, and we will see y'all hopefully with Ryan next week.